Hello, Las Vegas. I am so happy to be here. I'm Juliet D'Ambrosio, Chief Experience Officer at Adrenaline, and I'm here to talk about AI. Just kidding. I'm not going to talk about AI at all. Maybe you've heard a little bit about that, but I am here to talk about something that I'm very excited to talk about, and it is because it is a subject that has flown, I believe, under the radar of the industry for a long time. And that is how you take the power of the branch and the power of marketing. And I know I don't need to tell this audience about the power of marketing and connect those to ultimately drive growth. Now, Adrenaline is a full-service, end-to-end strategy, design, implementation. We touch both brand and branch transformation. We've touched the brands of more, touch sounds weird, forgive me for that. We have helped to refresh or rebrand more financial institutions than anyone in the country. And we have also helped to transform branch experiences for over 40,000 branches. So we have seen what works when the power of one connects with the power of the other. So I want to start with this super depressing and not at all overly dramatic headline that we saw come out not that long ago, maybe about 5-6 years ago, that the bank branch is dead. And this started a tsunami of headlines that were sort of proclaiming the same thing. The model is going to be dead within 5 years. And it makes sense on paper if you look at it, if you think about fintech and digital disruption and new generations who were born glued to their phone screens, why the industry overall might predict that there is going to be a new model for banking and that the branch is obsolete. We heard it over and over again that the closures, and especially a little thing called COVID, came around. There was a big disruption. Everyone moved to digital channel. There was no other choice, that we didn't have another choice to do that, even though the community banking industry really stood up during that time. But we saw branch closures increasing and increasing. And even then going from trade publications all the way into mainstream media, this narrative that bank branching was dead and maybe you should ditch your bank brand too, said the Wall Street Journal just a few years ago. What's interesting that happened is that the narrative shifted because a little something called reality came to bear. And it was that the US banks were actually in 2023 adding more net new branches than they were closing for the first time in a decade, since 2012. So, this is what we thought the bank branch was dead, but more and more opening. And then Chase, of course, has always been on this sort of myth-busting front end of belief in the branch. And they said in February of last year, of 2024, we're going to open 500 new branches. We're going to renovate our 1,700 branch network in the next 3 years. And then BOA said, wait, us too. Not just Chase, because they obviously know what they're doing, but we are going to renovate our entire network. We are going to open more new financial centers. Brian Moynihan said we are changing the way that people will interact with our branches by 2026. And then PNC came on and said, well, guys, hold our beer, I guess. And we are going to invest $1 billion on building 100 new branches and renovating. They have a network of 2,300 by 2028. And then they were like, wait, hold my beer again. 6 months later, we're going to actually increase that $500 million, and we are going to double the amount of new branches that we're building, and we're going to renovate everything by 2028. So what we saw then was that it's not just the biggies, but it's the middlies that begin to say, wait a second, there is something happening around a renaissance of a branch and the reinvestment in branch banking. And so we see headline after headline, Huntington, TD, Frost Bank, big Huntington, regionals, big regionals, and now we're seeing that move into the community banking sector. And it's early days because, again, remember those headlines, bank branches dead, lots of bank branches are closing. The narrative didn't shift that until very recently, but we are beginning to see the payoff of this investment in branch banking. And Fifth Third has actually gained deposits by investing in their branches. And even more telling that over the past 8 quarters, JP Morgan Chase's consumer and community banking has way outpaced in terms of equity growth. It is twice as high as their investment banking, and it is due, according to Accenture, in large part to its branching strategy. So something's happening. These behemoths of the industry know that branch banking is leading to the business growth and the scale that the industry is seeking. So through the last 18 months, we know that consumers are actually using branches. Sorry, that went a little fast for you, but they are actually using branches more than any other channel to open new accounts. In just last year, 3 out of 4 new to bank sales actually happened at the branch. And we see this sort of borne out in all the research, all the data, no matter where we look at it. I love this quote from Ravel Banking Research, just published this. And the idea that even consumers who might not ever use the branch, who prefer online digital banking, they want that sense of security, they want that sense of reassurance, knowing that I got a branch, if God forbid something happens and life happens and something will happen, there's a branch and I can go and talk to somebody and I can resolve that issue, even if they never use the branch itself. Forgive me while I data your faces off a couple more times, just to continue to dig into this point that 7 out of 10 consumers say, yep, I need a branch within 15 minutes, and I will not switch to your financial institution unless I see you in my neighborhood. I know that you're somewhere close by where I live or where I work. We know 90% of all consumers have actually used a branch in the last year. And I think most importantly, and this comes from financial brand research itself, that 50% of those account originations started in the branch. And again, go back to that 75% of new to bank sales are happening at the branch channel. The most interesting part of the data to me is the myth busting of who is going into the branches. And I think that as we talk to clients around the country, credit unions, banks, the perception, the overriding perception is that oldsters use the branch. That's just what they grew up doing. They feel comfortable doing that. And youngsters, I guess, I don't know, they get information on TikTok. And that's how they are going to navigate the world. What's actually happening is that Gen Z is using the branch, going into the branch 3 times as often on a monthly basis than the elders are. And there's all sorts of psychological reasons. There are socioeconomic reasons that this is happening. We don't have time to go into it all, but the truth is, the data don't lie, that there is a real need for younger generations, even though they will likely do most of their banking online. They need to have a branch, and they will use it. And of course, I think the most stunning, to me, psychological insight comes from our sort of modern banking guru, Jamie Dimon himself, which this is the philosophy of all that Chase investment boiled down to a single sentence, which is people like to visit their money. People are people. People are emotional. Money is emotional. When people are dealing with money, they want to look at a human being in the eye and have a conversation about it. And so the nature, though, of the branches are changing, and that's something we all know, but people are still going to go there. So I hope I have convinced you that the branch renaissance is A, here, it's B, happening, it's C, unstoppable now, that there really is a need for a continued branch banking. Now, let's talk about the purpose, the nature of the branches and how those have changed. And there was an old purpose, and we all know what that old purpose was like, back in the black and white days where we were going there, and it was transactional. You go there, you needed to go there. Where else could you deposit a check or get some cash or open a loan or have a conversation? And then the new purpose, and this is not entirely borne out yet, but it is changing to one of gathering, to one of having conversations, to one of teaching and learning. And the way I hear this most often expressed to us by our clients is sort of the fancy word of advisory. We've moved from transactional to advisory. And so we know that this is happening, and we see that need for advisory conversations, again, especially with younger people, younger millennials and Gen Z. So the purpose of branches now, if we dig sort of one level deeper, we know that it is changing. How is it changing for consumers? And the very first way that it is changing is this idea of the branch is the front door. I see it. It is a beacon in my community. I know that it's there. I know that there is a connection here to my local community. I perceive that there is convenience nearby if I so happen to want a branch. So it becomes really the front door. Secondly, the branch becomes a place for consumers to get financial advice. Financial literacy is abysmally low. It sounds like the ground floor for consumers of all ages. This we know is true. There are lots of studies that show that people can continue to get financial advice from their mom or their dad. They can get it from TikTok, but they want to get it from a trusted source. They want to get it from a bank. So the purpose of branch for consumers, it's a front door, and then it becomes a place for that advice to sort of think through, to learn information about what they need to do, and to have a relationship, a real human-to-human relationship, which leads to the number 3 purpose for consumers, and that is this idea of human service. If something goes wrong, if I have a question, if I am confused, God forbid, I can elevate it to a banker. There's someone I can have a conversation with, I can look at them, they can look at me, we can resolve it together, which helps me to know as a consumer when I'm at my most vulnerable that there is someone there to help me. And finally, very last is basic transactions. So this is actually the utter flip of what it used to be when it was transaction first and then human service and sort of then it was the front door. We have seen that shift. Now, that is the purpose of branches for consumers. When we look at the purpose of branches for you, for your institution, the front door is all about acquisition. They haven't drunk your Kool-Aid yet. They need to drink your Kool-Aid. This is about acquiring new members and new customers. Number 2, for financial advice, it's about cross-sell. And it sounds like these are crass terms, selling other products and services, but ultimately, financial advice can help them open up the door to the services and the products that they need, that the consumers need to reach whatever goal it is in their life. Finally, that human service, that human service, if you are there when I need you, I will be loyal to you. It has created that deep, sort of irresistible, unbreakable bond that I'm going to stay with your institution. And finally, at the very least, efficiency. I have a transaction to make. I need a check or cash or a money order. I'm going to go in. It's going to happen quickly. That idea of efficiency. So we see sort of the doubling of the purpose and how it has shifted both for consumers and then for the financial institution. Okay, this is the thesis of this entire presentation and this talk, and if there is something that I can leave you with, if you leave with nothing else, it is that there is a gap. There is so much value to be had with the branch network. There is so much value to be unlocked with marketing. And what we are seeing that's happening is there is a wall between them. The deep investment that we are seeing in the branch, and to keep in mind what this investment looks like. So when PNC says we're gonna open 200 new branches, the average cost of a new build is $2.5 million. The average cost of that's for freestanding, the average cost of an inline is $800,000. So there's significant financial investment happening there. On the other hand, for marketing, financial institutions spent $22 billion, that's billion, $22.0 billion in 2024. That's an 8% increase over the year before that, and the year before that was a 7% increase. So in just 2 years, there has been a massive reinvestment into marketing. We are not seeing the value of that investment in branch and investment in marketing optimized. And this is no diss, but if I went into 90% of your branches, this is what I would likely see. And we're not singling anyone out, but there is, first of all, there's a lot. There is a lot of marketing. There is print marketing. There's line of business marketing. If there is digital signage, there is a mix of digital signage that's happening. We see a lot of sort of homegrown branch manager driven marketing that is happening at each branch. There is localization, there's seasonal messaging, there is really just, if we look, an unorchestrated marketing experience. So this isn't rocket science. The idea is that financial institutions have never been more sophisticated at marketing. You can personalize, you can personalize at scale, you can create marketing campaigns that have better than ever trackability. You can apply AI in new ways to drive better performance of your marketing dollars. We know that the branch experience and branch investment is happening. There is value being left on the table here, and that is why the shift needs to go from thinking about the branch as being the most expensive delivery channel, which is true. I mean, you know, $2.5 million to build a branch, that's at scale, is very expensive. It is no longer, though, the mindset to have, but rather that the branch is the most valuable marketing channel, or it can be. And that's really what I want to talk about a bit more, is the idea of not just that it is, but how you can go from, forgive me, I want to make it a couple back here. I hope I don't give you vertigo too much. Go from this to being the most valuable marketing channel within your portfolio. So how does that happen? And it is a sort of a proven way that Adrenaline has found to close that branch marketing value gap. And I mentioned it's not rocket science, and it's not, but it is strategic, it is intentional, and it does require rigor of strategy. So it is the combination of the right place and the right message and the right delivery. So super simple, just 3 key pillars: right place, right message, right delivery. Okay, so let's talk about the methodology that goes beyond just those sort of simple headlines and why they are so important. So we know that the external part of your branch is your beacon. It becomes that brand beacon. It's all, again, about acquisition, acquiring new customers. Then, once they are acquired, once they have drunk your Kool-Aid and said, oh, yes, please, this is what I want, your branch is your brand. It serves a brand purpose to deepen and expand and make more meaningful relationships with your customers and with your members. So keeping all of that in mind, there are some unique challenges that are inherent in branch marketing, and that is that people are going in, they're not really expecting to have fun, they're completing a task, it's all about relationship building, that's what they are seeking. So it's not, they don't come in and say, oh, I'm gonna get a mortgage today. Great day to think about a HELOC. I'll just walk on out of here with that. It's one-to-many, so it's not one-to-one. So how do we really personalize branch marketing? Difficult to measure because there are no clicks. You can't tell what is working when and how. And of course, I'm painting with a broad brush. There are some ways to look at the metrics there, but it's also self-directed. So there is no one consumer journey, whether it's at the drive-up, whether it's inside the branch. So the branch marketing has to work to be able to address all of that, and those are the challenges. But there are some very amazing advantages that can then also be unlocked because, again, it is about deepening relationships, which is increasing the share of wallet. It is about increasing that top of mind relevancy that you are in their consideration set. It goes from transactions to interactions all the way to advisory. The brand and the branch become connected, creating a cohesive experience, creating consistency, which is so key across the network, even just visually. If you walk into a branch in one market and you walk into a branch in the other market, you're getting a lot of the same messaging. And it increases and engages the staff. The staff is sort of a key part to unlocking the power of branch marketing. Okay, so the branch marketing strategy, right place, right message, right delivery. So the right place is all about a zonal framework, and a zonal methodology just looks at the customer journey. Back when I was starting my career a billion years ago, back in the 1900s, that's my joke, because I started in 1999. There was a science called shopper marketing, and shopper marketing was all about using zones of experience. When you're outside the zone and then you move inside the location, inside the retail experience, and then you move around and through it, and then you're finally transacting, you have a different mindset. So it's all about that customer journey. It's about their dwell time in each particular zone. And it's about planning for that and building communications and marketing around it. The right message is about thinking about all of the messages that are necessary and competing at the branch or could compete, and how we orchestrate those messages so that they are the right messages for where people are in their experience. So there's brand messaging that's all about the purpose of the brand and what you stand for. There is marketing messaging, which is all about the great new rates you have, or your mortgage, or your HELOC, or whatever you want to promote from a line of business standpoint. There's information, like digital channel migration, or just your hours of operation. There's also localization, and this becomes very key to how, especially for growing institutions that serve multiple markets, how do we create a sense of locality? So all of these messages have to be orchestrated in the right way at the right zone, and then ultimately the right delivery. How are we giving this message, this right message at the right place? So is it through digital signage? If so, what is the strategy for the playlist? When and how much brand versus marketing versus information do we share? It's about segmentation of audience and by branch. If we have a branch that has a heavy sort of up-and-coming socioeconomic group and a branch that has a lot of very wealthy empty nesters, how do we segment that delivery and that message to match the right audience? And then finally, the cadence. How often does your messaging change out? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it, as we see with many of our clients, is it annually or even a little longer than annually? So how do we create a delivery mechanism that allows for change out messaging? So all of it sort of in a nutshell. Now, digging in a little bit deeper into that right place methodology, and I promised that it wasn't rocket science, and it really isn't rocket science. So there are 5 zones. There's the attract zone. It's your storefront, it's your drive up, it's your ATM, and it's when people are considering you. They are attracted to you. You become a magnet for them. There is the engage zone once they enter the branch experience, and they're getting oriented, and they're figuring out how they want to engage. What is their next step? There's the transact zone, which, depending on your operational setup, can be most often at a teller line, and it's where the consumer's mindset is all about, let me just get this thing done. I have a task, I want to complete it, let me get it done. There is the consult zone, which is for deeper conversations around products like mortgage or like refinancing. And then finally, there's the back office, and that becomes a place to really activate for internal audiences. And you can see the little planogram on the far, I guess for you, the far left side of that shows all the different touch points, all the different mechanisms that we have and what we would call the kit of parts in which to communicate there. So I want to just show some examples of that idea of the right place. And so this is our client, Valley Bank. They had recently rebranded from Valley National Bank. I think they're about a little under 65 billion. They are, or had been located, are still headquartered in New Jersey, and they are moving into market expansion into Manhattan. So they have this beautiful Fifth Avenue location. You can see it at the bottom of that tower there. And there's this digital soffit that, again, we are looking at the attract zone. And then you see those digital like posters underneath that. So a way that they're thinking about activating that right place is, first of all, this is a highly foot trafficked area of Manhattan, not just foot traffic, but traffic, car traffic driving by. How are they activating this to maximize the value of that place? And you can see that there is something that is called, I love the dramatic title of this campaign, it's called The Eyes of New York. And it is all about taking up-close portraits and really shouting it from the rooftops about how Valley Bank is not staring at you creepily. So don't think it's about that, but really thinking about the individual, the people of New York that they are serving. Now, what's interesting, if you look right underneath it, so that is what we would call, that is brand messaging. Right underneath that is all about like college savings plans. So we have some marketing messaging happening also. Those digital posters face both externally at the attract zone and then internally as well at the engage zone. So we're able to sort of hit both. And as you sort of move backwards and get lots of different views of this, it really does become that brand beacon that maximizes the value of the attract zone. And this is just, it has become such a gem in Valley Bank's marketing arsenal that they are actually, this is the first time I've ever seen what's happening with digital signage in a bank make their website. They are championing the value of what they are doing and how they're unlocking it. So if you go to Valley Bank or valley.com, this is what you will see about the Eyes of New York. So we know that they are taking that idea of the right place. They have great opportunity there and making the most of it with their digital signage. Okay, looking at the right message, and there are two ways to really think about the right message, and we like to think about it again, that attract zone is all about, it's the eyes of New York. It is all about acquisition. It's about, for Valley, putting a real stake in the ground that they are in Manhattan. Everything else is about augmenting. It is about growing those relationships and the cross-sell value from engage to transact to consult, ultimately to support. And the right message types, we talked about this: brand type, marketing type for promotions, information, and local, but putting them all together in a way that meets that right place at the right zone, at the right time in the customer journey, really becomes the science of the branch marketing strategy. So just a few examples of this. Wells Fargo, this was a campaign that Adrenaline worked on several years ago now, but I think it's a great example of the idea of activating the right message at the attract zone. Both, hi New York, we are here, we're loud and we're proud and we're here to help. But there's also becomes an informational message here about fraud and security and convenience. So the idea that there is one large brand message, and then there are several secondary marketing messages, and they're really making the most of that window real estate there. Another great example, my colleague Gina Bleedorn just shared some really beautiful work around the M&A of New York Community Bank, which ultimately acquired Flagstar Bank. They rebranded under a single flagship brand. But how they, so you see that on the external, but then as we are into the transact zone and partially the engage zone, we went from really what we would see at any bank branch today. So there's lots of different messaging that's happening. Some of it's mortgage, some of it's CDs. You don't really know where to look, to a singular message around the neighborhood as well as a line of business around business banking. Great other example of this right message. So TCU had been Teachers Credit Union in Indiana. They're the largest credit union in Indiana, rebranded to Everwise. So we go from thinking about the right place to activate messages. Well, probably most people think that if you're a credit union or a bank, you probably have loans and you probably have checking accounts, versus what you see on the bottom after they have activated a branch marketing strategy, the idea of they're really celebrating their brand with confidence changes everything, cleaning up that exterior and bringing some of those core messages inside the branch. On the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, we have Yumi, they're a credit union in the LA area. They have one branch. They have a very iconic, playful brand, and they have used, even the ATM here becomes a way of getting that right message across, the idea of money not growing on trees. It's a sort of lighthearted feeling line that is in line with their brand itself. And it is activated right when people are thinking about money and getting out some money. Okay, finally, right delivery, and this is the final piece of this methodology, is that we look at how do you put this together in a way that we can make sure that all the pieces and parts are at the right cadence and frequency, and we are not overwhelming with one versus the other. We really are able to maximize the space within the branch to make all of this come to life. So we're looking here at a sample playlist, digital playlist strategy where we have brand messaging that is timed for around dwell time. So, meet us, or a meet us too message, or why we nurture, say that is a core brand message for them. The information becomes all about financial empowerment, tips and tricks. So as you are sitting and waiting, or maybe standing in the teller line, you are seeing this playlist play out so that there are changeable messages that are meeting you at the right cadence and frequency. There is some local information that comes again with the brand, and then some marketing. And that's really the right balance as a sample playlist. So putting it together with the right cadence and the right frequency so that we know those messages are able to best hit home. And so some good, beautiful examples of this. Bank of Colorado, for example, on the top right there, has a big brand moment at their Engage. So they are using their digital signage in a way to really celebrate the brand, and that changes out over time versus if you look at United Bank right underneath Bank of Colorado, you're at a transact zone and they are using their digital signage to really think about information. Digital migration. Hey, you don't have to stand in line at this branch to do whatever transaction you need. Did you know you can get it online? Have a conversation with one of our tellers. BMO in the bottom middle is celebrating locality as they entered the Milwaukee market. Bank of the West is, again, celebrating brand. That's what we would call the Engage zone, where they're hosting people waiting for a consultation. So the delivery, by the way, these are digital examples. It doesn't have to all be, and it certainly isn't all about digital signage. What we will say overall, as we look at right place, right message, right delivery, is there is a radical simplification at the branch of really getting just enough, but not too much, no matter what zone you are talking about, of that marketing. So really dialing it back and making every touch point of marketing across the branch more powerful. A couple more examples quickly that we see as we have gone through working with clients that have rebranded. American Bank, which rebranded to Bravera Bank, again, activating both their digital signage, but also their change out print messaging through the poster that you see in the bottom right, both for marketing and for some additional information or brand messaging. And then Park National Bank, that we love talking about because it was a very complex 12 different affiliate brands coming together to rebrand under one. So a Carolina-based banking brand, which becomes the Park National Bank, and they have finally the right delivery where they are just championing what you can do in that branch and really being able to push through their digital signage if they are in a deposit gathering mode for banking, or if they are in the other mode and then really want to celebrate that idea of borrowing. The power of place is all about creating spaces that are alive. So thank you very much.